Hi, this is Michael Stoddard from Musicals Made Easy, and today I'm going to talk to you about the dreaded question: how many rehearsal hours does it take to put on a musical? The question we all ask ourselves when we are looking at our blinking cursor at the top of a rehearsal schedule. Well, it typically takes 120 to 140 hours depending on the experience of your production team and the experience of your actors. So if we put that into a fun little math equation, let's say you rehearse 2 hours a day after school, maybe for 4 days a week. That's about 15 weeks, translated to about 4 months. So if you are like any theater educator I know, you definitely do not have 4 months to put on a show unless you're only doing one show a year. So how do you take that 4 months and you shrink it into a more manageable time? And the good news is there are some tips and tricks to do just that. So how do you shave weeks off your rehearsal schedule? Well, the first thing you need to do is make sure you have a great team. You have a musical director and you have a choreographer that you trust, that can work independently. They show up prepared, they can work quickly and efficiently. So that's step one. So step two is your preparation before musical auditions. So when you look at the list of characters in the script you need to cast from the largest principal role to the smallest ensemble part that maybe sings a solo line, is a dancer, I want you to think about groups. So if you're like me, I'm a fan of having maximum participation in my programs. So if I have a lot of kids show up to audition, I want to put as many in as I can, ensuring they all have something to do. But I struggle with not calling the entire cast for these rehearsals. So if you need to maximize rehearsal time and value your sanity of not having kids behind you talking the whole time, you need to divide your ensemble into groups, at least 2, if not 3, so you can have multiple ensembles rehearsing at the same time. So figuring this out before your auditions will help you to create an audition process that gives you the time to not only cast your leads, but can divide those ensemble groups appropriately. Strongest singers, strongest dancers, strongest actors, whatever works best for that production. So when you go back now, we're going back to our rehearsal schedule, and you're staring at that, and you're looking at the cast lists that has appropriately been placed into groups. You want to try and rehearse 2 or 3 things at once. You should be able to do this for at least the first few weeks, if not more. Having 3 rehearsal spaces to do this is also vital. So you've got to have maybe a smaller room for music rehearsals, maybe 2 larger spaces for acting scenes and for choreography. Maybe you have a dance studio or you can create one. An example would be I have the leads working with me, the director, on a scene, while 2 students work on a duet, they sing with the music director. And then you have a large group of ensemble learning choreography. Maybe you do this for an hour or 2 hours, depending on your length of your rehearsal. And then you rotate. So then I get the duet and I start staging that. And then the group goes to music to learn the song and vice versa. So when you're able to do that, you are doubling or tripling your rehearsal time for that day, and those hours will add up. So if we go back to our fun little math equation, so if you have 2 hours a day after school, times 2 hours with me, 2 hours with music, 2 hours with choreography, that 2 hours of rehearsal time now becomes 6. Every day you can accomplish this rotation, it eliminates days off of the 15 weeks. If you want help in doing this, you should go back to musicalmadeeasy.com and you should look at the character breakdown sheet that we have offered for you. Now, if you have a small program, I haven't forgotten about you. Maybe you don't have enough students to divide into 3 groups, but you probably have enough that you can at least be rehearsing 2 things at the same time, principal roles and ensemble. And something else that's really worked well for me is having at least 1 weekend. It's hard to get the students and parents to want to bring them in on every weekend, but I always do something called a dance weekend. I do it early in the process. I make sure we learn a few group numbers musically first, and then I call them in on a dance weekend. We learn 4 huge numbers choreography-wise in 2 days, schedule about 3 to 4 hours per number, and then right off the bat, you've got 4 huge numbers already learned. It fast forwards your rehearsal schedule. It's also a great little bonding experience for the cast, that they just lived through this crazy dance weekend. It's an opportunity to maybe bring in a guest choreographer as well. The last note I want to say is trying to have the students learn material in sequential order of the show is usually not the most efficient for your show and schedule. Focus first on what can be rehearsed at the same time. There'll be plenty of time to run things in order later. Your students will be more prepared and confident than they've ever been for any show that you've done before. And you'll be able to then squeeze in that winter production of, On the Town that everybody's doing. If you haven't yet, be sure to check out our character breakdown spreadsheet available to you on musicalsmadeeasy.com. And good luck.